It is Sunday. It is football day, and it is time for the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast. You've got the Commish, you've got Cyclops, you've got 2020. Guys, how you doing today on this beautiful Sunday morning?
It is beautiful here up in North Carolina. Looking to have a nice day to watch some football. Can't say that for all of our teams this week, but we'll go over that during the show.
Yeah, to answer Hank Williams' eternal question, I am ready for some football.
All right. Well, it's a weird thing because of the Masters today, right?
Yeah.
We actually have more 4 o'clock games than we do 1 o'clock games. And I don't think that's ever happened. I know that Tony Romo and Jim Nantz aren't going to be doing a show today. They're not going to be broadcasting today, which is also a rarity. Some really strange things happening in the NFL. We've got people on the COVID list. We've got bye weeks and injuries. It's crazy. So let me start off with a question for you guys. We've talked a lot about who to start, who to sit, who to pick up, but I have a question for you guys. And you two are experts in this field, but we all make mistakes. We all have our issues, right? In your drafts, who's the one guy in your draft that you regret drafting?
This is incredibly easy for me, this year. Lamar Jackson. I went out on a limb. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I never do this. You guys know my history. I never go quarterback early. In one league, I got Mahomes early. And in our league, I went out, I jumped up, and so I was first. So it was my it was my third round pick or second round pick, whatever you want to call it. I take Lamar Jackson. And what a considered bust he is at quarterback this year. Luckily, I dumped him off onto the Commish just last week, and I'm done with him.
What about you, 2020?
God, it's hard. And I'm jostling between Josh Jacobs and Matt Ryan. And I say Matt Ryan because I had him in 3 leagues because I got him late. And he put me in a precarious situation in the league that the 3 of us are in because I literally lost 3 games because of his underwhelming performance over that 3-week span. But I still feel, though, I got to go with Josh Jacobs because he was such a high draft pick for me. He was my second rounder. And though he's getting the volume, he is dramatically underperforming. And I could have had so much better in that position in the second round. I also feel like he's a big issue into why I feel like that team's totally underperforming. So Jacobs has just been very underwhelming. And I regret taking him in the second round.
Commish, we'll ask you in 1 second. You'll give us your person. But think about it. Like Derrick Henry was tearing it up. The last 3 weeks, he's losing games for you if you're starting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable the balance this year. I mean, they're on the goal line twice during that game, and they don't even give him a chance. I mean, Derrick Henry owners got to be pulling their hair out at this point.
You know what? You and I were talking about this the other day. Another really frustrating running back, not because of his talent, but because of his usage, is Alvin Kamara. He's like leaving 8, 10, 12, 15 fantasy points on the field every week because every time I turn around, Latavius Murray is handling the ball, and they're not giving him the attempts and the production that he's been deserving. So, he's been, for his standards and how he could be performing, dramatically underperforming as what I'm saying. This year is so bizarre. Barkley out, CMC missed ton of games. Zeke Elliott is becoming an afterthought in fantasy. Henry is starting to underperform. Jacobs underperforming. Aaron Jones been hurt so much. I mean, it is the year of the running.
All right, Commish, what do you got as far as your person you regret?
We all know I drafted Zeke third in the league, which I still would probably do again. The problem was Dak Prescott, who I also had. And as soon as Dak got hurt, that took away Zeke, and that line in Dallas was terrible. So I'm not gonna regret taking players that, as a result of injury, underperformed. So that doesn't count. But to me, I even named my team after this schmuck, and his name is Tyler Higbee. Because of what he did in the last 5 games of last year, everybody thought, he's the next coming of Darren Waller. And it turned out that was not the case. So I dropped him.
You should have sold high after week 1.
Yeah,
I should
right.
have. I
It wasn't getting better than that.
after the draft, more like it. But yeah, absolutely. So I ended up dropping him, but the reason I regret it is because I had my eye on other tight ends, but I made the mistake of loving a player too much. And we all do that, where you find a player in the offseason, you're like, this is my guy, whatever. Higbee, you're gone.
Right.
I still haven't changed.
You're really going Higbee over Zeke? I find that so interesting.
Yeah, but Zeke, you don't regret drafting Zeke,
right?
Zeke was a product of Dak going out and everything else that happened in Dallas. That's a different scenario.
Hold on a second. There's a difference between regretting it because it was the wrong decision, which it wasn't, or regretting it simply because of the ultimate outcome. You can't regret it. No one's blaming that decision. Anyone in the third pick would take Zeke. It's not to regret your decision. But as far as the outcome, you can have regret for that because he's not producing as the third pick in the draft. I'm surprised you're going Higbee, who was, what was he, your seventh maybe?
Yeah, something like that. But the point is, who I could have had at that point. With Zeke, I don't regret picking him because who knew what would happen? This wasn't predicted, and everybody would have taken Zeke at 3. So
of course,
that wasn't the issue. I understand what you were saying about Jacobs underperforming. It's not because of injury. I understand what Brad was saying about Lamar because there's always been this mantra about waiting on quarterbacks because you never know. So I get that. So that's why I don't regret picking Zeke. I don't regret picking Dak. These guys were performing great for me. I ended up going 5-0 as a result of it. But as soon as he went out, now I'm 5-3 or whatever it is. So, it not 5-3, but okay. Look, I want to know what everyone out there. Who do you regret taking and why? Give us a call 772-800-BUZZ. Put your comment in Facebook Live or YouTube Live. And let me tell you real quick what we're going to be doing today. We're going to go over some of your streamers. So if you have somebody who's injured, you have somebody who's on bye, and you're trying to figure out that last minute pickup that, look, I can try to at least salvage the day. We have some streamers for you guys that you might be able to plug in this morning before it's too late to start on your team. And we'll also be doing a new segment called Start, Bench, or Drop, similar to the Mary Effer Kill, where I'm going to be giving 2020 and Cyclops 3 guys, and you've got to determine whether or not to start them, bench them, or drop them. So we're going to get started right now. I think
you want to start with some of the questions that are out there right now?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we got I love it, man. Bright eye and bushy tailed ready for us. So Commish and Cyclops, our first question is, in a full point PPR, would you go with Juju Smith-Schuster or Will Fuller?
This is full PPR.
Full PPR.
I think both of those games today are supposed to have weather issues. I know the Pittsburgh game, they have 20 to 30 mile an hour winds plus rain.
Remember Pittsburgh against Cincy in Pittsburgh.
I know who it's against. Just keep in mind the weather issues.
The wind. Okay.
I don't know. My problem with Juju is that you have that 3-headed monster over there with Deonte Johnson and Claypool. So you never know from week to week, is this going to be his day or somebody else's day? Where Will Fuller, I know they have Brandin Cooks, but Will Fuller is really the guy. He's the main guy. He's the main target. If I had to choose between them, then I would have to go with Fuller. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think it's just a matter of distribution at this point.
Yeah, Juju over the past couple weeks has had really strong weeks, which is nice. Which is nice to see, even though he's on my do not have on my team anymore player. I think he still is after last year. But I got to say, the past couple weeks have been good. I think they're going to have a short passing game today. I think that will help with Juju and Claypool. I almost go with Juju here.
It's not necessarily wrong. We know that
volume. Yeah,
we're not sure.
I'm sorry, because I wouldn't say Juju's had really strong weeks. He's had better weeks. He hasn't cracked the century mark. He's not getting the touchdowns, but he's getting targeted. He's getting 7-8 catches, 80-90 yards. It's serviceable. I think if we could talk about floor versus ceiling and upside, I would go with Fuller. I agree with you. He's the 1A to Brandon Cooks 1B. You can't dismiss Cooks, but it's just the two of them. And in Pittsburgh, who is it? Is it going to be Claypool? Is it Johnson? Is it Ebron? Is it Juju?
I think there's two more issues that we have to look at. And first of all, that's the running back. We know that Duke Johnson is going to be starting for Houston. I'm sorry?
I meant Deonte Johnson.
No. What I'm saying is that with the fact that you have Duke Johnson, you don't have James Conner as the running back, you're going to have more opportunities for Will Fuller to have the ball. I think they're going to be doing a lot of passing. The only bad thing, if there is a bad thing, are the potential matchups. So we know that Will Fuller most likely will be matching up against Terrence Mitchell with Cleveland, which is a tough matchup. Juju, on the other hand, is going to have Mackenzie Alexander with Cincinnati. And again, this is not written in stone because they can shift. But right now, the way it's laid out in the slot is that Mackenzie Alexander is the slot defender, and he'll be the one covering Juju. So you have a better opportunity with Juju there. But I think when it comes to targets, when it comes to opportunities, I like Will Fuller.
Yeah, keep this in mind, Jose. The Texans-Browns game, the weather, they say that it could be up to 50-mile-an-hour winds. There's a wind warning there in Cleveland, and that could certainly affect the passing game today. Obviously. So be careful there. I'd probably go with me personally. I'd go with Juju. You got to remember there's Randall Cobb also there for the Texans. So, he's going to take away. He's had a couple decent weeks coming into this.
So let's get to his second question. Go ahead. Gibson, Rojo, or Bernard?
Well, that's a tough one. So Gibson is clearly the beginning down back. McKissick is, my God, he's getting like 8-9 grabs a game. He got picked up everywhere.
No, not everywhere. He's actually available in our league. We only start 2 running backs.
Now, Gibson's a number one for sure. You have to go with Gibson, especially against the Detroit defense. It's a great matchup. So in this case, definitely I would go with Gibson.
You like Gibson in a full point PPR with Gio, the only guy against that tough defense. Joe Burrow checking down to Gio quite a bit. I got to tell you, I think I'm going to go with Gio here. I think he's going to catch 7 balls today and get 7 points just off that.
Gio goes against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh had, he's actually one of my players for later, but Pittsburgh's got the 23 ranked run defense, but the number 1 ranked, passing defense. So it could be a decent day for him.
Swirling winds out there, like you said, right?
Yeah. So
Jose, we're not helping you because we're all over the place on this one. But you don't need to start Rojo. So we know that. So at least we've narrowed it down to 2. But Jose, go ahead and comment. I'm curious, is there a player that you regret drafting? I'd love to see what you have to say there. And if anybody has any questions, 772-800-BUZZ, you can give us a call or comment YouTube Live or Facebook Live, and we will get to your comment right away on the air. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to jump right into our potential streamers. And we're actually going to start with, normally I would say, let's start with quarterbacks, but I've been talking a lot. So let's go to running backs. And Brad, are there any last-minute streamers that you recommend that people pick up today?
Okay, so there's certainly a few out there. You obviously have DJ Dallas in Seattle. He's probably been picked up and dropped, but they're going against the Rams today. You have Hyde and Carson are out. He's not going to be a top starter, but if you need somebody, he's good. I don't look for him to have a huge day, but maybe he'll get in the end zone. They're going to be passing the ball. Obviously, Wilson has been, on this crazy pace, and they have fantastic receivers. So I look for him to have an okay day, but as a streamer, he's one of your guys. Kalen Ballage out, for the Chargers. Jackson's on the IR. Goes against the Dolphins defense, which has been, pretty stringent lately. But again, Kelly has not shown much, and I think they're going to be leaning on Ballage, and he'll have a lot of carries today.
To add to that, Christian Wilkins, their star nose tackle, is not playing today for the Miami. Dolphins.
Right,
So it makes
which opens up a little bit of a hole in the middle. So, Balaj is definitely a last-minute streamer. Bernard, as we already talked about, for Cincinnati, is a last-minute streamer. He's not really. He's going to be on people's teams. But now you can start him because Mixon was ruled out. Cordell Patterson, if you really have to go deep, if you need a flex, if you need something, David Montgomery is out. They have two other guys behind Cordell Patterson, Ryan Nall and Artevis Pierce, that may see some carries.
Nall actually stepped in last week after he got Singletary was taken. Montgomery was taken out, and did pretty well, including scoring a touchdown.
Yep. I again, anybody on Chicago. I mean, Montgomery has been getting 15 carries for 30 yards and 15 carries for 45 yards. Don't put too much into that. Again, it's a streamer if you absolutely need somebody. And then, of course, McKissick, who had 14 targets last week once Alex Smith came in, 9 catches. He's not getting a lot of rushes because Gibson is getting the rushes there, as we've talked about. But, if you need somebody, go there. So those are my 4 or 5 guys. Of course, you have Gallman going against Philadelphia, or Gallman. He is going to be on most people's rosters at this point. You can start him because what's his name is out. Freeman is out. I don't know. They have weather issues there in that game as well. 70% chance of rain, 20 to 25 mile per hour winds. So they're probably going to be looking to run the ball a lot. So that could be an okay streamer, but I wouldn't put too much into it. Okay, sounds great. So let's go ahead and jump to bless you. Is that a sneeze or a cough? It was a cough. Sure. It was a cough. We have a few more. We have a few more questions coming in and comments.
All right.
So
let's do it. Okay. Right. So Jose, I guess we asked him about who did you regret drafting? Flip a coin. Your information is what I'm. Okay. Had a first pick and drafted CMC. Wish I would have picked Dalvin Cooks. Yeah, I get it. Brad, you picked CMC too. You don't regret it, right? You're just upset about the outcome.
Yeah, I don't regret it. It's anybody's going to be taking him with the number 1 pick. Most people are taking him with the number 1 pick this year, and the injury certainly hampered it. But it is what it is. It's not a regret.
I have an interesting question for you guys. Let's say the season plays out and everything ends as is. In other words, Dalvin Cook just keeps playing the way he keeps playing. Next year, you have the number 1 pick in the draft. Who would you take? Would it be CMC again? He's healthy, he's going in healthy.
Russell Wilson.
Dalvin Cook. You have the number 1 pick in the draft. Is it I think Dalvin Cook has put his name in the hat as the overall number 1 pick. I'm just curious where you guys sit on that with what you're seeing this year.
First of all, I'll never have the number 1 overall pick, so I shouldn't even guess with that.
Quit routing.
Yeah, I am. And no, I think it's a legitimate question between Kamara, Cook, and CMC. And I don't think it's clear right now what the answer to that is.
You know what?
I don't think it's Kamara. Kamara is too sporadic, and he's getting a lot of touches. It's just that team, and is Brees going to be there again next year? Who knows? I think it would be between CMC and Cook. CMC, the offense runs through him when he's on the field. There's no doubt. Cook, same thing at this point. So, if I had that pick right now, it's Cook.
So I'm going to disagree with you. Alvin Kamara is not getting a lot of touches. He was in the beginning, and that is succinctly his problem. You just said it. That offense in Minnesota entirely runs through Dalvin Cook. They are running him into the ground, and I only wish they would do that in New Orleans. And that's the problem. They're sparing Kamara because they want him fresh for the playoffs, and they're spelling him consistently with Latavius Murray, and he's not getting the usage that he was getting, where you said it best. Cook is just, they are feeding him like crazy. And if that continued on, to me, if I have the number 1 pick next year, I'd be leaning towards Dalvin Cook.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so there is another question here from Julian. How do we think Tua is going to play against the Chargers defense? I'll get to that in a second because he is actually one of my streamers. So when we talk about quarterback streamers for the week, I have a few. I just have 3 here. Tua is actually at the end of my streamer list, and it is in order. I think these other guys have to be gone before you stream someone like Tua. Drew Lock is not going to is not somebody who's going to take you into the playoffs or win you your championship. But when we're talking about a streamer, we're talking about someone that you need because your quarterback's hurt on COVID list or because they're on bye. When you see what Jerry Jeudy did last week, 7 receptions, 125 yards, KJ Hamler had 6 receptions, knowing that they're going against the Raiders, who are 26 in the league against the pass, if you're looking for a streamer, look no further than Drew Lock. Steady Teddy Bridgewater, man. This is a guy we've been recommending that you pick up off of your waiver list. If he's still out there, he very well could be a good streamer. He actually is rushed for the 9th most yards by a quarterback. So not just the passing, but you also get those rushing yards. And he scored a touchdown on the ground last week. So even though the Bucs aren't the worst defense, they're not the best defense. They're not, despite what happened to the Bucs last week,
got dismantled.
Okay. So I don't see a high ceiling for Bridgewater, but I don't see a very low floor either. I expect somewhere around 16 to 20 points for Teddy Bridgewater. Now, when it comes to Tua, we saw that last week it was his first real game. And I say that because he had his open playbook for the first time. And as a result, he turned in 21.3 points, which is pretty solid. He had 71% completion rate, almost 250 yards passing. He threw 2 touchdowns, and he didn't throw an interception. One that actually was overturned on replay.
But on a throwaway.
Right. And you ask about the Chargers defense, and I'll tell you, and taking it from somebody who actually drafted the Chargers defense because I thought they were going to be much better this year. They've actually been the 6th most generous defense against quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points allowed. So Tua does have an advantage in that point. It's going to be interesting to see the battle of the rookies between Tua and Herbert. I think it's going to be a very high scoring affair today. And I think the 2 of them are both going to have some high points. I think Tua is going to have anywhere between the 18 to 22 point range. So that's my prediction on that. Those are my streamers for quarterbacks. Let's jump into wide receivers. Who are some of the streamers we're looking at for receivers?
And if you would kindly put that banner up, by the way, I thought that was a very excellent question that came from one of our fans that posted that question, Mr. Julian Birkin. Thank you. I also think it's interesting that we're already talking about Tua in the streamer category, and I think you're right. He is going to have a good week. So, all right, let's go into some of our wide receiver streamers this week. This, to me, I'm listing as a streamer, but quite honestly, how he's not fixed on a team at this point, to me, is a head scratcher. I mean, he is got somewhat decent ownership. He's owned in 76% of Yahoo leagues, only 70% of ESPN leagues, and that is Brandin Ayuk playing for the Niners. Now, first of all, he's going against New Orleans, which does have a fairly good defense, but they can put up points. So you know they're going to throw. And the running game in San Francisco is not much to be excited about with Jarek McKinnon and Jermichael Hasty. But Ayuk has really been coming on. In his last 2 games, he sat out last week because it was on the COVID list, as did Kendrick Bourne. And because of that, Richie James lit it up. But Ayuk had a very efficient 8 catches. And this is what I love about him, his efficiency. On 10 targets, he had 8 grabs for 91 yards and a score. The week before that, 7 targets, 6 grabs for 115 yards, no score there. But this week, I really like him if he's out there. And in roughly 30% of the leagues, he is available. And if he's not, we'll talk about Richie James. But
before you get to James, can I ask you a question? This is a lineup that I have in another league.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a flex player. And I actually have Gio Bernard in my flex. And I have Brandin Ayuk sitting on my bench. So now we're talking about a flex position for both Ayuk and Bernard. You already said you like Bernard because of the catches out of the backfield in a full PPR. This is a half PPR.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they're playing against the number 1 rush defense in the league in Pittsburgh. What do you think between those two on a flex
Well,
rank?
with the full PPR, I really believe they're going to try
half
to
PPR. What about a half PPR?
Even half PPR. I still like the idea of Gio getting 6-7 catches because they're gonna want him involved in the game. He's going to be a part of that offense. I still go with Gio. Anytime you can get a running back that's going to touch the ball 20, and you know this, of course, 20 times versus a receiver, you're ecstatic if he gets 6 or 7 touches. And Gio is so good out of the backfield that it's a tough matchup. I hate the matchup, but they're getting Kendrick Bourne back as well. Richie James just established himself. I like Ayuk, but I would go with Gio Bernard here personally.
What if I throw Allen Robinson into this mix?
Oh, I would take Ayuk over Robinson in a second.
Really?
Robinson had a good week a couple of weeks ago. I don't like the quarterback play there. They're scrambling at running back.
Robinson had scored 11.6 last week, 17.7 the week before.
Very nice. Yeah, I still go with Gio. I still go with the guy.
I go with Robinson here.
Really?
Out of those three, I go with Robinson.
Someone should write this down. I want to mark this.
Go ahead.
Who gets some of fantasy?
All right, go ahead. Go ahead with Richie James. I'm sorry.
Actually, no, I'm skipping Richie James because I don't want to seem like a San Francisco. But we're going to Curtis Samuel, who amazingly to me, again, very available in Yahoo. He's owned in only 56% of the leagues. In ESPN, he's owned in only 63% of the leagues. And all he's done over the last 2 weeks, I love efficiency, but he's getting the targets as well. He had 9 targets for 9 grabs on 105 yards and a touchdown last week. But on top of that, last week, he gets the rushing attempts. Yep. Not a lot, 1, 2, 3 grabs, but it's in the red zone.
Sweeps. Yep.
Yeah, 2 of the last 3 weeks, he had 2 rushing red zone touchdowns to go with his targets and receptions. Yep. He looks like the 1B to the Robbie Anderson 1A. DJ Moore is dead to the fantasy world at this point. The week before, he had 4 grabs, 31 yards, not great, but the week before that, 6 grabs, 46 yards, and again, a rushing touchdown in both of those 2 consecutive weeks. So I like Curtis Samuel this week. I know they're going against Tampa Bay, but you can throw on Tampa Bay better than you can run on them. Then
I personally look Curtis Samuel, especially without CMC there, right, should get touches. I think you're going to see DJ Moore put back into that offense a little bit more this week.
We'll see. We'll see. We shall see. He's a talented player, but for some reason he's really been faded out over the last several weeks. And then this is a guy we keep talking about him week after week, yet amazingly, his ownership isn't nearly what it should be, and that's Jerry Jeudy. Little worried. He had a shoulder contusion, but he's fine. They say he's going to play. Again, available in 20% of Yahoo leagues and available in 30% of ESPN leagues. And all he did last week was, first of all, over the last 2 weeks, 24 targets. And the Commish is right. Drew Lock is an above average, very formidable quarterback. So last week, 7 grabs, 125 yards and a touchdown. Week before that, 10 targets, 4 grabs, and 75 yards. And he's going against a very, very beatable Las Vegas Raiders defense. So I love
the only issue with him is that he will be most likely matched up against Trayvon Mullen, and who is Vegas's best defender, or at least cornerback. So the matchup really edges toward Mullen. But if you're looking at streamers, we're not talking about automatic starts here, guys. Jerry Jeudy is definitely a good option.
Okay, this is going to be a zoinks. I mean, because we did this last week as well, but I got to go with Darnell Mooney. I mean, seriously, you're talking about Allen Robinson, but Darnell Mooney in the last 2 weeks has had 17 looks go his way. Last week alone, 11 targets, 5 grabs, 43 yards. And again, we're talking streamers here. This isn't a start sit. This is a streamer who is available, by the way, in about 85 to 90% of most leagues. So if you're looking for someone to stream because these other guys aren't available, he's a good option. And what I love about it is the matchup. He's going against one of the worst pass defenses in the league in Minnesota. Watch out for the game conditions there, because it is in Chicago. I don't know the game conditions, but I like him as a streamer because Foles has really been looking his way. And then we've got, lastly, Richie James. And the reason why he's in this discussion is because Deebo Samuel, again, is not playing. They have been coming out in some three wide out sets where you'll see Ayuk, Kendrick Bourne, and Richie James. If Ayuk isn't available, which, again, he was only available about 20-25% of the leagues, Richie James, even after that monster performance, available in 94% of Yahoo leagues and available in 88% of ESPN leagues. And all he did last week was put up 9 grabs on 13 targets for 184 yards and a touchdochdown.
Do you think his name was Rick James and he just couldn't live life like that and he changed it to Richie?
You know something? If he has another good week, I'm going to start calling him the Super Freak.
All right, sounds good. Listen, we appreciate it. 2020. We haven't gotten the calls today that I was hoping for. 772-800 Buzz. There's a few things we want to know from you. First of all, want to know who do you regret drafting? Second of all, wanted to find out, do you have any questions? Do you have streamers that you recommend or that you have picked up or have to pick up and you don't know who to start today? Give us a call or comment, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. We are here for you guys this morning. We're going to jump to tight ends. I have just 2 streamers to talk about real quick. Jimmy Graham with the capital, I have J and an I there. So Jimmy Graham, for no reason other than bad spelling, but Jimmy Graham, believe it or not, is actually the 6th best tight end in fantasy football this season. Crazy, right? I mean, talking about regretting the Higbee choice.
That must mean there's some really bad tight ends in football.
There are some really bad tight ends, and I think you're getting a lot of sharing on the tight ends. You're seeing tight ends catching balls that normally wouldn't. So, look, for Jimmy Graham, apart from week 2, he has not had less than 5 targets per game, and he's actually tied for the 2nd most touchdowns among tight ends with 5. So, look, since coming off the bye, the Vikings have given up 8 receptions and 125 yards to Tanyan and Sternberger. Last week, they allowed Hawkinson to score. So, look, this guy is as consistent as you're going to get. People didn't think he would be. People thought he was washed up. He's only rostered in 49% of leagues. If you need a tight end to stream today, you're not going to do much better than Jimmy Graham. The other one is Logan Thomas. We've been talking about Logan Thomas for a while. He's been targeted a lot this season, 46 times, which is actually 3rd on the team. So, unfortunately, he hasn't taken advantage of all of those targets. If he did, we'd be having a different conversation. That's why we're talking about him for streaming today. So we don't know Alex Smith and what his relationship is and his connection and his chemistry with Logan Thomas, but we can tell you that if you need somebody, if you're looking for an upgrade for today, Logan Thomas is most likely available in your league, and it's possible that he might have a good day today. So if you need a tight end, you can try for Logan Thomas as well. Defenses. Anybody have any defenses you want to stream today?
Yeah, I think we're talking about either Washington or New York, and or the Philly, the Eagles. By the way, the Phillies. Yes.
Did I miss something? Listen, I know 2020's been weird, but did I miss something?
Bryce Harper is very good in coverage. He's on the Nationals. Or the Eagles. I like all 3 teams because of their matchups. They're doing a good job sacking the quarterbacks and should help create some turnovers.
Yep. So just in a little update, you asked about the weather in Chicago. Looks like it's going to be around 40. Not too much of a rain chance, but 25 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 50 mile an hour at times. So that could be a little bit tough on a passing game.
All right. Well, the inactive list is starting to come out. We will keep you updated throughout the show as that happens. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump to a segment I call Start, Bench, and Drop. And what I want you two to do, and I don't want you to complain about, oh my God, I can't choose. You have to choose. You have no choice. Okay. If you don't want to choose, just turn off your camera. But you have to choose. All right.
Before we get there, we have some questions coming in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Go ahead, read them out, Brad.
All right. So first we have from Steve. Do you start Chubb or Gibson? Then Duke Johnson or Gibson. Wait. Whoa. That's a lot of info there. Start Chubb or Gibson. Oh, let's start with that one. Chubb or Gibson? Chubb's coming off the IR today. Gibson, Chubb's going to be
go with
splitting time
Chubb
with
for
Hunt.
sure.
Yeah, there's going to be weather there, so I think they're just going to be trying to pound the ball today. So I would.
Yeah, and they're not going to
go with
limit him. He's been out for so long. They said that he's fresh. They're not going to limit him. So I definitely
then
Chubb
Duke
there.
Johnson or Gibson or Chubb as his flex. I still go with Chubb.
Yeah,
I still go with Chubb.
And I actually like Gibson over Duke Johnson today. But that's a coin flip as well.
Okay. So next question is from Self. Flex spot. Ayuk, Jefferson, or Edmonds? It's a PPR. Jefferson. Again, there's going to be some weather there, I believe. Edmonds, you have Drake coming back.
Right.
It's a PPR, so Edmonds does get those catches, which is nice. He could end up with, and Cardinals play, who they play.
The problem is that Drake could possibly come back today. We will know very soon.
He's expected to play.
Yeah.
Right.
He's expected to play.
As to how much, we don't know. Jefferson is either going to have 1 catch for 9 yards or 13 catches for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Right.
So, at least I think that you're going to have more touches with Brandin Ayuk. And since it's PPR, I think he's your better option.
Got you. All right. And then we have a comment, and I have no idea what this means, but it says grassy ass, fellas.
As in gracias.
Gracias. Yeah. You're not bisexual, right? So it's okay. You are bisexual, just not bilingual. Okay. Anyway, moving right along.
Okay. Let's start with an easy one. I call it easy, but we'll start off. This is start, bench, or drop. And by the way, anybody out there who wants to give us a call, they want to join in on this game we have here. I'm curious if you want to start, bench, or drop any of these players, you're welcome to do so by giving us a call at 772-800-BUZZ, or you comment on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And the first one is Chase Edmonds, DeAndre Swift, Leonard Fournette. Who do you start? Who do you bench? Who do you drop?
All right, so I'm starting Swift. I am stashing and benching Chase Edmonds with Drake's injury history, and I'm dropping Fournette.
Okay. Well, I am starting Swift. I am going to bench Fournette, and then I'm going to drop Edmonds.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Given what's happening right now with Drake, that is definitely fair. Okay.
I think Ronald Jones is on a short string. I think Fournette over the next game or two will end up being the starter there.
All right. This one's not as exciting, but it's a little more difficult. DJ Chark, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd. Start, bench, drop.
Oof. Cooks, Boyd.
Well, I start Boyd. I bench Chark, and I drop Cooks.
I'm reversing it. I'm starting Boyd. I'm dropping Chark, but I'm benching Cooks.
Yeah, Chark. Talk about there's probably people that are regretting the Chark pick too, right?
Yes.
Because there was talk about how great he would be doing. Same thing with Brandon Cooks. I mean, I don't want to take away from the fact that Cooks has not been performing as what everyone thought he would be. They thought he would be the number one.
Over the last 3 weeks, though, he's been very good.
He's been coming on. That's true. Okay.
For 3 weeks now, yeah.
Here's an interesting one for you guys. Drop, start, or bench. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown.
Oh, God. Evans, Godwin, and Brown. Edwards and Godwin together there.
You Brown, I like it. You got all three. Yeah, okay.
Oh, it's all three. Yeah. God.
You got to choose.
So I start Evans. I bench Brown, and I drop Godwin.
Wow.
No, maybe, that's a tough one.
I knew this one would be a little tougher.
Yeah, this one.
Can I just drop all three?
Or bench all three.
So I'm prepared. I'm dropping Brown. I still think it's Godwin and Evans team. I'm going to. Can I give you an answer this week? But once Godwin's finger is completely healed, I would be changing this. I'm going to bench Godwin, start Evans, cut Brown. But once Godwin is healed up in that finger, which is important catching footballs, I would reverse that. That's why I'd bench Godwin, start Evans, and cut Brown.
All right. So we do have a question from Alan. Good morning, guys. Pick one: Thielen, Mike Williams, or Jakeem Grant. And before you answer, is anybody playing against Alan this week?
I am not.
Okay, then you know what? We'll go ahead, Bruno. We'll answer that question for you.
But I do believe I need him to lose.
Right. So let's give him a really shitty answer here. Go with Jakeem Grant.
Yeah, you're not.
Might not be bad today with Preston Williams out.
With Williams out, yeah.
I'm sorry, but you can't start Grant over Thielen, regardless of how bad Thielen's been playing, and regardless of the fact that Williams is out. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
no, of course not. We both need him to lose, so we're trying to give him bad advice here.
I would go with Thielen or Mike Williams here. Jakeem Grant, you don't want to put any value in that.
I agree. I think that I would probably go with Thielen.
And they're going to have weather. They're going to have weather issues, but
they are. But they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to be coming from behind. And I just got to tell you, Miami's pass duo or pass defense duo of Xavier Howard and Byron Jones is pretty formidable. And you're probably going to have Byron Jones faced up against him because Howard's probably going to be shadowing Keenan Allen. So it makes it a little more beatable. But they've been doing a really good job of limiting the damage that wide receivers have been doing. Although I will say this, it has been the 1B. You know what? I just talked myself out of that. I think Allen. Well, let me put it this way. Look what Hopkins did against Xavier Howard last week. He really got shut down minus the pass interference calls. So that leaves Byron Jones against Williams, and Byron Jones has been beatable. He hasn't had an interception in 3 years, by the way. But his passes defended aren't quite as good as this might be a Mike Williams game. I actually am going to go with Mike Williams here, thinking about the matchups and talking about the weather that they're going to be experiencing in that Minnesota game. So I'd go Williams.
So interesting you just brought up the pass interference. Did you hear this week where it was Hopkins that came out and said that you should get pass interference yards for your wide receiver? I think there's something to that.
I agree.
There should be, maybe it's half yards of if there was a setting where you get maybe half of the yards. So it was a 60-yard pass interference call, you would get 30 yards tacked onto your total. I think that is something that should be looked at for fantasy leagues. I don't know if it's out there. I haven't seen it.
But then hold on a second. Then where does it stop? If the quarterback that threw that ball,
right?
How come he doesn't? Then wait a minute, hold on. And you got to read further into the article. Then what about a defender that's going in and gets called? The offensive lineman is holding. He got robbed of a sack. Does he get the sack credit? How far down the rabbit hole do you start going with that? I love it, by the way. I agree with you. Because I love Xavier Howard, but he did hold on a couple.
I don't think he did anything egregious that isn't done on every other play. But because of Hopkins. All right. So let's do this. Give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live. If you have any questions, you want to know who to start this week, who to bench this week. And we're going to continue with our game. And if you guys want to join in, you can, which is start, bench, or drop. And we're going to go to one that's a little more difficult. Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, or Tua. Who are you starting? Who are you benching? And who are you dropping?
Well, Brees is my easy start.
I know how you feel about Lamar, who I'm actually starting today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Good luck with that.
And Tua has the promise.
Who's been coming up?
Right. Are you ready to drop the guy with the promise?
You know, with Preston Williams going out, I think that will hurt him a little bit. It seemed like he was a favorite target there. Does that affect his abilities at all?
I think it does.
I mean, not his abilities, but the outcomes. I'd probably start Brees, drop Tua, and bench Jackson.
All right. I think that's fair.
I hate saying it. I have to say that as well. I think Tua is going to seriously start emerging. What I saw last week made me feel very comfortable with him. But you can't drop Lamar Jackson, even though he's been underperforming. He's got the talent at any time in a game to do that. So I'd have to agree. I don't like
trade him.
Agreeing.
Just don't drop him.
Right? Yeah, you would trade him. You wouldn't drop him. Exactly.
Okay. Well, that one was easy. I got one that's a little more difficult for you. Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Deonte Johnson.
Oh, God, you're doing this
Start,
again.
bench, drop.
Watch, rinse, repeat that we just did with Tampa. I'm starting Deonte just because he's to me generally looks like the 1A on that team.
I'm dropping Deonte.
You're dropping Deonte.
Yep.
I'm starting Deonte, probably dropping Juju and benching Claypool.
Wow.
I'm starting Claypool, benching Juju, and dropping Deonte. What about you, Commish?
Why would you drop Deonte Johnson?
Yeah.
I just like the other two guys better. I watched that game last week. I just feel like I saw more targets going that way to those
Seems like
two guys.
Deonte's been the more I mean, the last couple of weeks, Juju's come on somewhat. I think Deonte
Claypool had a lot of targets last week too.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know the target share. I haven't looked it up. I'm curious to know that.
Deonte gets the targets. He seems to be like the 1A too. And it's just so weird with Juju and Claypool. Claypool is interesting. He gets red zone rushing attempts, and he's been a little touchdown dependent. Had a couple games with some massive targets, but it really feels to me like his go-to guy on that team is Deonte Johnson.
There's a few, and I agree with you guys. I mean, I agree with Keith on that. But there's some breaking news that I wanted to go through with regard to the actives and inactives. We've talked about it, and it's now official that Nick Chubb is officially active. I know that TJ Hawkinson had some injury issues. He's officially active. Robert Tonyan, also dealing with injuries, is officially active. Golden Tate, welcome back from his benching. He's active. Alshon Jeffrey is active. We do know that once again in Jacksonville that Gardner Minshew is inactive. And something very interesting that just came out was that the Bears are going to be activating Lamar Smith for tomorrow night's game. Lamar Miller for tomorrow night's game.
Miller.
So we were talking about Cordero Patterson. Lamar Miller might be a guy who's going to be joining in the fun in the backfield after the Montgomery concussion. So that's what we have right now as far as our active and inactive for the 1:00 games. I don't know. There's some things happening. Okay, last one on this.
Wait, can we hold? Yeah. Can we go back to this for a second? Okay, sure. For those three. So I quickly looked up some stats. All right. So out of those three, without looking, where do you guys think? Now, this is in one of my leagues. Now, obviously, could differ a little bit, but this is a half-point PPR. Where do you think those guys are on the list right now?
Well, Deonte Johnson was out for 3 or 4 games.
Deonte Johnson was out for 1 game. He missed 1 game and a bye. And then 1 game he might have left early.
He did. He left early in I think he got hurt in the Houston game. Then there was a bye. Then he tried coming back for the Philly game and he was hurt. Then he missed a Cleveland game.
Okay. So just where do you guys think those guys are?
Well, Claypool had that monster.
Right.
Yeah. Claypool had those 2 monster games, I think.
Right.
So I think Claypool probably has the most points out of all of them. If that's what you're at, are you asking about fantasy football points?
Yeah, I'm looking at of course, fantasy football. All right, let me give it to you. Claypool is the number 16 wide receiver right now in this particular league. 4 out of the last 5 weeks, he's gone for over 10 points. One being the 40-point week, then 16, then a half a point, and then 11 and 12. Okay, then you go to Juju, who over the 3 out of the last 4 weeks has over 10. He goes from 4.8 to 1.6, 14, 10, 18. Deonte Johnson, way down here at number 48 wide receiver. Let's say the last 5 weeks, he had 1, then he missed a game, then he had 26, then he had 1, and then he had 11.
Because he was going out in those games, Brad.
Write it down.
But if you look at target shares, when they're all in and they're all healthy, Deonte Johnson's the 1A on that team.
All right, so Johnson last week had 6 for 77.
He had 10 targets.
10 targets.
He had 10 targets. You are correct. And he had 1 rush. Right. Okay. Claypool last week had 13 targets and 1 rush for 4 yards. Same thing with 8 catches. So he had a lot, he had missed. So Yeah, I think they're sharing it a
Brad,
lot.
do you have Claypool on your team?
I do, and I don't have Juju. Juju had 7 targets. It was 6 for 93 and a touchdown.
Brad, do you feel better?
I'm just going by the numbers. I'm just giving you guys the numbers.
Do you feel better now?
Keith, you
do
can't.
You need a cuddle?
I do.
Keith is the pot calling the kettle black, but
exactly.
Right.
And guess what? It's my turn to call black, and I did it. Now. Thank you.
All right, we got one more start, bench, or drop, and then we'll end the show. But let's do the Seattle receivers: DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Scary Terry. This is going to be a hard one because you're going to have to drop a significant wide receiver. Who are you starting? Who are you benching? Who are you dropping? And let's do this. Let's say, hold on. Let's say for this week.
Oh, McLaurin.
Okay. I mean, there's no question you're starting, for me at least, you're starting DK Metcalf. I can't drop Tyler Lockett. And I would have to drop Scary Terry, even with the upgrade at quarterback with Alex Smith. But just based on the talent, I mean, for me, that to me is fairly obvious.
Well, go ahead, Brad.
No, this is certainly a tough one. You know, it's week by week with DK or Lockett. I think I start Lockett. DK Metcalf, I was actually there was some stuff, I was listening to this morning on him. I think all except 2 games he's had over 100 yards or something to that effect, and he's only got 2 games without a touchdown. But I think when I look at it, I think Lockett has more of an upside weekly basis. Just thinking about it. So I start Lockett, I bench DK, and even though McLaurin's having and again, I don't have his numbers in front of me, I'm not looking a good year. He's the guy that I cut.
McLaurin's been hit or miss. He's had good games. I wouldn't.
And Lockett goes for 200, and then he goes for 40. Right.
Write this down. Not only will Terry McLaurin have more points than DK Metcalf and Lockett, but he will lead the league today in passing in fantasy football.
Wow.
And I will tell you why. And I do put a lot of stock in this. Desmond Trufant, who's the cornerback for Detroit, will be covering Terry McLaurin today. That is a given. It is no doubt. That's the matchup today. And that matchup is ridiculous because Trufant is actually listed as one of the worst cornerbacks right now in the league, going up against a very good Terry McLaurin. Lockett also has a good matchup today with Troy Hill in L.A., where DK Metcalf is actually going to be matched up against L.A.'s best cornerback. But the Troy Hill and the Williams matchups aren't exactly written in stone, but the Desmond Trufant one is. So I think Terry McLaurin this week is going to have the best week. That's my bold prediction. I need music in the background.
That's bold considering it's for the entire league. But
not only that, it can be hard to predict between Metcalf and Lockett which one's going to emerge.
Right.
But you're predicting against either of them with Russell Wilson. So that's really interesting. That's a very bold statement. So we'll see how that plays out.
We'll see what happens. Guys, is there anything else I'm excited? We're getting ready for, I think there's 5 1 o'clock games, 6 4 o'clock games, including the Dolphin game.
5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting psyched. Any last words?
Are there any last minute updates as far as players?
I will check.
Hope for the I don't. Jerry Jeudy expected to play. Drake, no, nothing.
One interesting thing I'll bring up is Jacob Hollister. I agree with you. The Rams they're playing the Rams, right? The Seattle?
Correct.
Yes.
That's right. Rams do have a good secondary, but they're a little susceptible to the tight end. And what you might see is Russell Wilson throwing, and he's been becoming a lot more involved in that offense. He's an interesting streaming option. So if you're struggling this week, take a look at Jacob Hollister. I think he's going to have a fairly decent game against LA this week.
What do you think the under-over is for pass attempts by Wilson today?
42.
45.
Something like that. Yeah. Kind of nuts.
Something like that. All right, guys.
Hold on, wait. One fun thing. Prediction. Give me a score prediction today's Chargers-Dolphins game.
Oh, I think it's going to be probably 27-34. Miami.
I like your take. I take that.
I think it's going to be like 28-24. One of the teams, hoping Miami, but I think it's going to be close like that.
I think there's an opportunity both of these teams go north of 30. So, and the other question is something that the Dolphins have done. I'm sure you both have heard the stat already. For only the second time in franchise history, has this team has gone 4 games in a row where they put up 21 points in the first half. I think they have a very good chance of making it 5 in a row against this Chargers defense.
Yeah, I think Herbert's gonna have a little trouble today. I think Brian Flores is going to be throwing some new schemes at him, some things that'll make him have to spend a little more time in the pocket trying to figure out where to throw. So I think we're going to see a little different Herbert today. I still think he's going to have a good game. I just think it's going to be a little different than what we've seen over the past few weeks.
Yeah, should be good.
All right, so I had a trivia question for today, but we'll move that to Tuesday.
All right.
And everyone have a fun Sunday watching some football.
Yep.
All right, guys, take care. Wear your masks.
All right. Yep.
Take
Stay
care.
safe.